Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Hard Conversations. Jeff Black, am joined by my good friend, Robo. Well, Jason Roberson, should I say. Scooby, aka Jason Theobald, is currently trying to figure out his next life mission. Does he move to Dubai? Does he go down to Florida? He doesn't know. He's confused, needed the week off to think about it. But in the meantime, we figure we bring in someone even better looking to take his place. Aram Grigorian. And he and I know each other from the health and fitness space. And he runs an awesome event that we're going to get into. But first, I want to kind of talk about our sponsors. If you guys have heard this podcast any bit of time, you all will know that New Ethics, NUETHIX.com, sponsors me. It's pretty cool. They sponsor a guy with a disability who's into bodybuilding, but not good at it, right? But anyway, if you guys are looking to try some of their products, like if you're trying A1G, their product Gourmet Greens is better and cheaper. I'm not just saying it. I know we all know what Jason spends on the testing to know it's real. So if you guys are interested in trying some of their products, even the proteins, I can rave about all sorts of stuff. The discount code is Relentless10, and that does support the projects that we do here. The other one is Advanced Vitality. If you are interested in maybe having your blood hormones checked, whether it be male or female, or maybe if you're in between the two, Jason has three different options for all those. And depending upon what you guys are trying to get checked out, there is a discount available for those for first time people to do a consultation. I always tell everybody it's good to get an idea of what's going on underneath the hood. It's a lot more than what your doctor says is normal blood work, and I will just leave it there. I think even Robo, not coming from our world, knows that that's a true thing anymore. But Aram, I gotta ask, why would you even want to do a high ticket seminar? Because that's what you got, the Real Coaches Summit. It's coming up. You're already wiping your face. It looks like the intensity is about to pour from you. Give us the answer.
Because other people that do it suck at it, so I decided to do one better. And that's honestly the God's honest truth, man. Like I've been going to seminars and events now since like 2017. I try to go to like two or three a year, A for education, B for networking, C to get out of my house. As fitness people, like we lead different lives than your average person, and we derive leisure in different ways. And to me, I want to be around like-minded individuals, and I want to be around people that are kind of in my scope. And people think we're weird. Like my parents don't know what the fuck we do for a living. Like my friends who I went to high school with are all fat pieces of shit who don't give a shit about any of this stuff. My friends here in San Diego blow coke and drink all day long. Like I don't have a community of people that I can talk to about life with, talk about projects with, talk about my job with, talk about my aspirations with. So by having events in my back pocket, I can not only go and learn something new, maybe meet somebody that I haven't met before and talk about the stuff that interests me, but I also get to just be around people that I vibe with. And there's nothing wrong with having my San Diego friends who I blow coke with every once in a while. And there's nothing wrong with having my fat fuck friends who I eat wings with every once in a while. But I want to be able to have a community of people that I can grow with. And that's why the event space to me is so important. And unfortunately, right now with the online coaching space, people that get into it, they just kind of hide behind their computer and they buy a bunch of mastermind classes that they never actually take. And they're relegated to this very, very small space that's in front of their home screen, and they never really get to branch out and see what the rest of the industry is doing. So by having this platform of people that are able to come together physically in person, it's just a powdered keg for ideas to be born.
You said something that caught my attention there, and I'll let Robo ask a question after this one. You said you're interested in doing it for reasons other than money, which is normally not what you hear. Normally, everyone's doing a seminar for a lead magnet to make money, get their name out there, and so forth. You actually are doing it as a way to build community. So, what did it look like for seminar one, for example, versus the seminar that you're preparing now?
So, I mean, full transparency, I've now lost $100,000 over the course of 2 years, two attempts at it already. So the first year I lost 30 grand. The second year I lost 70. And really it was more just because I fucked up and just didn't calculate the cost properly. As Robo's sitting there judging me. And by the way, Robo, I'm a former finance guy. So I actually spent 7 years basically working in the back office of a commodity trading firm. So finance
Oh
is
yeah,
definitely not a foreign concept to me, but when you're like when you're hosting an event, you have no idea about costs until they tell you them. The cost will change constantly, and then you're having to see, okay, how many tickets do I have to sell to cover these costs, and
yeah,
how many sponsors do I have to get, and what are the ticket prices supposed to be? And nobody taught me any of this shit. I was just figuring out as I go. So
yeah,
first year I had 155 people come, which I thought was awesome. It went off almost without a hitch. It was great. Again, just basically just didn't charge enough money for what the experience was. And I do it in Vegas, so I want to do it a little bit differently than most other event hosts do it, where they're not really providing food. Logistically, it's a bit of a nightmare because sometimes you have to go to different sites and there's events here and there's events there and you have to Uber back and forth. Whereas I wanted to do it in one place where everything's under one roof. It's logistically convenient for people, takes down those paywalls of like, the VIP ticket to get access to the speakers and to get access to food and drinks. So I just wanted it to be an all-inclusive, leave your wallet in the room, come down, learn, go to breakfast, come down, learn, go to lunch, hang out with people, not have to figure out like where dinner is. And, let's say like Alan Aragon just stepped off stage, get to go talk to him. And then you get to also have dinner with him. Like he's going to be sitting at the table with you, as opposed to a lot of these events that you go to. It's like these celebrity trainers or these celebrity coaches who don't coach human beings anymore. And they just, they get off the stage and then you have to like see where they are and they're gone half the time. They're never even there, or they show back up for the VIP dinner that you paid an extra $1,000 for, and they're just bombarded with people trying to take pictures with them. So I don't know, man. I don't do anything for the money. I know that sounds fucking stupid as hell, but like I'm a
No,
coach. I make my money coaching people.
that's
So
me.
that's my bread and butter. Like that's what I'm good at. That's what I know. I don't have to. I use the event as a passion project because I think sourcing good education as a newer coach or as an intermediate coach in this business is not easy. And the example I've actually used you as an example 100 times. I've reached out and DM'd you countless times about intermittent fasting and keto because those are two things I know fucking jack shit about. And I'm gonna go, and instead of reading 15 books about it, I'm gonna go ask the guy that does this with his clients, and I'm willing to pay for his time. But how do you know how to have access to Jeff Black unless you know Jeff Black? How do you know how to have access to Jason Theobald unless you know Jason Theobald? How do you know how to have access to whoever in our industry unless you actually know them or follow them? So a lot of times coaches will get into this industry, they'll get their level 1 certification somewhere, they'll get another certification somewhere else, but then that's it. They only have that curriculum and those access points. And then unless they start actually exposing themselves to other people in this industry who know more than they do, their education is done. It's over. There's no more continuing ed. It's all business scaling and growing and selling more coaching, but they never actually get better as coaches. So that's why the event was born.
I think you hit on something that is across every industry, right? You're talking coaching, but too many people now sit behind a computer. They don't network, and then, for example, they lose their job. They have no one to call, no one to talk to. There's no network there to pull on. And then they're shocked and they don't understand why. It's like, well, you never put yourself out there, you never introduced, you never met anyone. It's all on you.
Yeah, it's hard, man. I mean, like putting yourself out there is not easy. And the funny thing to me is always too, like so many coaches in the industry consider themselves introverts. I'm like, you're in the wrong fucking business, man. Like you can't be an introvert and be in the coaching space effectively, in my opinion, at least, unless you can turn it on and turn it off. But this is a communal business, and I think a rising tide floats all boats. So, like, if this industry collectively gets better and starts being trusted more, as opposed to us just being fucking used car salesmen selling supplements and bullshit, like people will actually come to coaches for help. And the more coaches that have success with their clients, the more credible this industry becomes, and the more money we all can make. So I think if we have more coaches who know how to coach people into fat loss, into muscle gain, into lifestyle change, into habit change, into longevity improvements, we are the first line of healthcare and we will be taken seriously. And all of us will then start to have the potential to earn a better living. But the more bullshit influencers selling garbage we have, which tend to be the majority because they're the ones with the biggest accounts and the loudest voices, that's who the average pedestrian person on Instagram sees. They don't see Jeff. They don't see me first. They see fucking V Shred and Gary Breckett, all these other cocksuckers who don't know what they're talking about. And they're just trying to sell you supplements. And unless we start to all come together and stop fighting with one another about who's smarter and who's better, Well, then our industry gets better and we all get better.
We're
100%.
fighting the exact same battle in mine. There's influencers who've gone on and started to say, this is how you buy a boring business with 100% seller financing and making up garbage. And there's, a group of us, and we're starting to form together on LinkedIn to do what you guys are doing, which is fight back, get the real information out, because all these people are getting scammed out of all their money and their goals and their dreams. And I don't blame them. I used to say, well, you're dumb. Now I realize they just don't know any better. This was the information out there. This is the only thing they saw.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I'm curious about when you put together these events, and Jeff can cut this if he doesn't like what I say next, but
I don't know shit. Say whatever.
yeah, what I saw when Jeff and I did a small event, back in February, is Jeff got hit up by 30 people who wanted to present, right? It was everyone trying to get their own name out, trying to jump in there. Um, it doesn't feel right, right? You want to invite the right people, you want to pull those people in. But some of these people are speaking for free, they save you costs, they help you out. How do you balance that and choose who to put in there?
So I don't pay any of my speakers, and I make that abundantly clear from the moment I invite them. I tell them, hey, I don't have the budget to pay you, nor do I think you need to get paid to give back to this industry. Like, this industry is the reason why you are the way you are and who you are and why you have the house you have. So if you can't spend 2.5 days giving back to this industry, then I don't fucking need you on stage. Like, I'm never gonna have Lane Norton come on unless he wants to do it for free. I'll never get I'll give you an example. So the first year I had Jordan Syatt and I had 24 people speaking, of 24 people that I think are relatively good in this industry. And when I asked Jordan Syatt's assistant if he can come, she's like, I need you to cover his plane ticket. I'm like, I can't do it. I don't have the money for it. I said, I can give him a hotel room. That's the agreement I have. I can feed him for 2 days, but I don't have the money to pay him for his flight. And next day she came back to me and said, he'll be there. Cool. I had plenty of other people give me numbers between 3,000 and 50,000 to be on stage.
I've seen that before.
And to me, it's like, how dare you charge me $50,000 to speak for an hour over the course of 2 days? Like, nothing you say is going to cure cancer. You're not that fucking important. I'm sorry. Like, I don't give a shit who you are. And if anything, the more important you are and the more money you make, the less you should charge for that time, because you've already made it. And like, this idea that my time is so valuable, it certainly may be. But guess what? You're going to get 2 hours of filming content, meaning you're staying on stage. You're an authority figure because you're standing in front of 250 people, which seemingly makes you seem pretty important. That's priceless. You can take that footage and chop it up and repurpose it 1,000 different ways. You're going to be in front of a community of people that give a shit about what you have to say. To me, that if that's not important enough for you to be on stage, and if the fact that somebody who has my experience level has asked you to come and present in front of 250 people who are hungry for knowledge, if that's not good enough for you, I don't understand like what else you possibly could need. Like, I would be honored to speak in front of one person. I've done free seminars at Orange Theory where 20 people signed up and one person showed up, and I still gave it my best effort. So this idea that I have to stand in front of X amount of people or else it's not going to be worth it, and I have to have this much money in my pocket or else I'm not coming, fuck off. Go do your own event.
I love that.
That's actually
Yeah.
really, I wanted to ask this question because I think it kind of piggybacks. With that being said, you're saying, hey, look, it's a give back opportunity, so forth. How do you get others to help promote it? Because that has been the hardest thing I've encountered when doing it on my end, and I have done nowhere near what you do. I've managed to net positive on every event, so I've at least won there. But I actually argue it was the times I did the seminars coming out of COVID, certain places, those hotels were just giving shit away to be able to take them. And I had the luxury of having my own gym, which I could close it down and clean it out when I want to. So I have friends in Nashville let me have places to be able to do stuff. With all that being said, you can lower all this overhead down, but how do you get people to get these coaches in the seat? Because you can only go so far with your social media. How are you promoting it? How are you getting it out there?
Grassroots, baby. Thousands of DMs. Like, I probably sent out, no lie, 1,500 DMs last year when I was promoting it. So a lot of coaches follow me on Instagram. They'll share my content, and the second they share my content, I'll see that they were a coach. I'll thank them in the DM for sharing my content, and I'll ask them, hey, are you coming April? Are you coming in March? I'll be like, coming to what? And I'll be like, oh, I have an event that I'm hosting, blah, blah, blah. I'll send them a link. Who knows? They may come, they may not. They may buy a ticket, they may not. I did that, like I said, about 1,500 times last year.
I need to scroll my Instagram and see if you did that to me.
I have the time to do it, like
Yeah.
between, I would say like I'm really only busy on check-in weeks, and those are bi-weekly. So all the other time I have is devoted towards trying to build the event, trying to create content, creating resources for my current clientele. The strategy isn't great. Obviously, it's not what I would recommend to anybody. I mean, there's people that are smarter than me who hire virtual assistants to do that type of a job, or they'll pay for, Instagram or Facebook advertising, which I think I might actually go in and boost some of those posts regarding the event this year. Because right now I'm sitting at like 126 tickets sold for the event in April, and I need another 124 to break even. And if I have a number in my head, like I'm willing to lose 10 grand of my own money and still be able to justify doing this again in 26. But if I lose a penny over that, like I have to just set a limit and just say I'm done with this, and like I just can't keep doing it anymore, because I literally get nothing out of it. Like I don't promote anything, I don't sell anything, I don't even fucking speak at the event. Like I get up on
like me,
stage,
baby. Yep, you gotta run it.
like I just get up on stage for 5 minutes at the beginning of it. I say thank you for coming, enjoy yourselves this weekend. If there's anything you need, just let me know. And that's it. I'm a pedestrian. I walk around, I shake hands, I kiss babies, I talk to people, I make sure they're getting what they need out of it. I ask them how things are going. Like I'm like the wedding planner at the event. Like I just walk around making sure everything's fine. And 2 days goes by, 2.5 days goes by, and I don't even know what the fuck happened. Like when Wednesday morning rolls around after the event's over, I have this like rush of just like this big exhale that happens. And then I just kind of assess the damage. You know what I mean? Like, and it's been overwhelmingly positive. Both years have been great. Last year it was even, I had 155 2023, I had 265 in 2024. My cap this year was 250, so I'm hoping to just hit 250 attendees for this year. And what makes it pricey is that it's the food and booze. It's the food and beverage. So like my minimum spend for at Caesars that I have to hit to fulfill the contract is 140,000. Now, the menu is ridiculous. It's like egg whites and egg buffet, chicken sausage and vegan options, and lunches like salads with, grilled meats, and dinners are, pasta or buffet style Mediterranean food. And like I try to keep everything very protein and vegetable dense because I understand my audience, and I don't want this to be like a fucking pastry morning and sandwiches for lunch, just mail it in and just have garbage there, because I want people to like actually have an experience. I want, some people have never left Iowa. Some people have never left Illinois. This is the first time they're traveling and going to something like in Vegas. And I want them to feel like it's in Vegas and really experience something that's high value, high brow a little bit, and pamper people a little bit, because they're leaving their families and they're leaving their businesses for 2.5 days. And I want them to be able to get that full experience without having to worry about anything else. And it costs money to do that. And I don't, because I'm not trying to make any money on it. I'm just trying to recoup and cover those costs by selling those tickets. The sponsorship is what it is. I sell sponsorships for $2,000, and some people come and subsidize the cost a little bit. And some of the presenters will promote to some degree on their Instagram pages or to their newsletters. But because I don't pay people, it's hard for me to then go ahead and ask them to be like, hey, on a biweekly basis, could you send out an email to your email list? If they want to. Some people are really good at it. They just keep promoting it. Other people are like, I have my own shit I got to do. I'm sorry, I can't keep promoting your event. So it's not easy, but I think if I'm going to try the advertisement route this year and just dump like $500 into some ads and see what happens. But who knows? I don't know. I have no idea if it'll work or not.
It's such an interesting thing. I'm hearing you say all this stuff, like the amount of money you need to have to recover 140,000 just for the food. And I'm like, damn, that's got to be intense, because I know you have to sign and say you're going to guarantee that it'll come out of you one way or another. What do
Scary,
you,
man.
it is very scary. I guess what I'm getting at is, how did you, why would you, it still comes back to, why would you want to keep
But
going? Like, I just sit here, I'm like, damn, man. It speaks to the character that I know that you have. But I guess when you're going all in on this and you know what you're up against, how are you designing the ticket that you want to bring in? Like, what are you thinking about when you look at the speakers, the presenters? Like, do you have like a board, like a vision board that you're going off of to get and things like that?
I basically take a look at like what are my clients' problems? Like who's my client avatar? What issues do they have? And what types of conversations am I have as a coach with them to help them? And then I basically think, okay, what is the subject matter I as a coach need to know to be able to solve my clients' problems? And then that's the people who I invite to speak on stage. So I have women who have pelvic floor health issues. So I want to have one of those experts come on. I have women in menopause. I have one of those experts come on. I have, I need to design hypertrophy based programs. I have one of those experts come on. I need to be able to understand energy balance and how to get through fat loss plateaus. I have one of those experts come on. And that's just how I piecemeal my people on stage. And sometimes people that create great content suck at speaking. Some people are really good coaches and they're not great presenters. Some people are really great presenters, but they don't really have a lot of evidence behind what they say. And it's just their own methods. And that was a problem last year. Actually, one of the women that was speaking about menopause was basically just kind of she's 30-year vet in the business. She's, a functional healthcare person and she's been doing this for a long time. And there was some dickhead in the back of the crowd that was basically just PubMeding all of her information and saying that this was wrong and that was wrong and that she
Sounds like
was,
our industry.
and it's just, he basically was just making like literally in the room was making posts like refuting all of her claims. And meanwhile, like she had led the conversation by saying like none of this is, some of this is backed by science. Other things that I do are not backed by science. I've just seen it work anecdotally, and that's what I do. And this kid decided to basically have a crusade against her, and it caused some drama, and it caused me to have to say some things to him and pull him aside. And he then followed up with another few posts about me threatening him. It just became like so dramatic for no reason. And like I'm fucking off the boat Russian. Like we deal with things a little bit differently than Americans do. Like it took every ounce of my energy to not bring him outside and not fucking beat him with a bag of quarters. But I have to also play nice, unfortunately, because I have a name in this industry that I have to uphold, and I have an event that I need to fill up, and I have to be as neutral as humanly possible. But it's hard when one person takes one thing out of context and runs with it and starts to disparage what you've tried to put together. And I kept telling this kid, I'm like, do you understand how much I have to put myself out there and how much I personally risk to get this done for you to be able to sit in that seat with your fucking smug look and tear apart this person who has 30 years of experience, which is almost 2 years under how long you've been alive for. And you're saying that she doesn't know what she's talking about because PubMed didn't verify it. Like, how dare you? And to me, we have too many coaches right now that are trying to be right and just aren't helpful. And I as a coach, don't give a fuck about being right. If you don't think what I do is good, cool. Don't sign up with me. But I'm trying to put out content and be as helpful as humanly possible. And my event is designed to do the same thing. Hopefully that what you learn on stage and you apply it to your clients works. And if it doesn't, there's no guarantee that it does.
Yeah. I'm actually, in the Robo, I know you probably got stuff to ask, but I want to wrap up on what you're saying. I'm a coach like that. I've almost 20 years of doing coaching, almost 30 years of being in the gym, a little over now, I think. And a lot like when it comes to keto and fasting and the gym pop people I do with, sure, there's some PubMed stuff there, but it doesn't back up a lot of it. But yet somehow it works. And I don't, and here's the whole thing, like I tell people, like I could give a psychological discourse to coaches, which I actually think most coaches who are listening should be smart enough to maybe get into some psychology aspect. Then you'd actually understand. Some people just need a new spark, a genesis, something that allows them to go, hey, this new thing over here, man, that's it. It's nothing special. We all know it's calories in, calories out. We all know it's manipulating inflammation, help the hormones hear better. All of us know these things by now. Ultimately, what matters is, are you listening to your clients? And are your clients getting results? Like I don't turn over my books much because I listen to my clients and form those kind of relationships. So I can't always post before and afters because I'm not a fucking turn mill of clients like some of these coaches are. I keep my 80 and that's about where I keep it on roster. And I do a lot of in-person coaching because I'm more extrovert than I am introvert, which is a whole other thing I could go down. But I really appreciate you saying that because that's where I kind of got off on the industry a little bit lately. I just kind of step back, be like, I don't want to participate in the stick measuring contest, whatever's going on. Like, I only care about if Robo's get ready for high rocks, what does Robo need from me to be able to compete in high rocks to get the results he has? And what do I know from my knowledge base and coaches like you and others? I have friends that I picked up and had conversation over the year to apply. And it doesn't always have to go back to PubMed. I don't shit on those people, but at the same time, I'm like, I think PubMed has made people more has retarded their growth in the gym as far as how people train. I watch kids do 2 sets now for chest, and I'm like, you stay small because of that. Do you know what I mean? So I appreciate you saying that because sometimes you want to put people on the tickets that you know actually connect and have a beautiful fan base, have loyal, rabid fans. And that doesn't always equate to technical expertise to have that.
It's hard, man. Like, I didn't know that what she was gonna say was controversial. Like she said that she would never work with vegan clients. That's her stance. That's her
I don't
business
work with
model.
vegan clients because it's hard. I
Right.
usually
Like
wait until their blood work's so bad that they go, maybe it's the vegan. I'm like, it's the vegan.
it's but it's but it's like to say that because then what this guy was basically saying was like what she was saying was misinformation. And I hate that term misinformation because
You
let's
know
be
who he voted
honest,
for?
just because you don't agree with the information doesn't necessarily mean the information itself is harmful because as a cognitively functional adult, you get to decide what you apply to yourself. So if somebody goes out and says, don't eat for 30 days and you'll lose weight and you're dumb enough to fucking do it, then it wasn't the person delivering that information that's at fault. It's you as the individual who decided to take that information and run with it. As a functional adult, you should probably be like, maybe not eating for 30 days is a bad idea. Maybe starving myself skinny is probably a bad idea because our body isn't meant to do that kind of thing. So, yes, are younger coaches impressionable? Sure. But to say that something is a harmful piece of misinformation because it promotes an ideology that you don't personally agree with or that you haven't seen corroborated through science, I think it's just being short-sighted. Because if somebody gets on stage and presents methodologies that have worked with 80% of their clientele base over the course of a 30-year career, are we going to do some harm as coaches at some point? Yeah, probably. We'll probably fuck some people up at some point. But if what we're doing is net positive, then I think what we're doing is more positive than it is negative. Then yeah, sure, I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to probably trust you. When I first started coaching in 2019 online, I reverse dieted everybody. Every single woman I worked with, I reverse dieted. Big, small, didn't matter. And I probably got 70% of my clients fatter because of it. Because that was the narrative in the industry. It was reverse dieting was super hot. Nobody ever explained how it worked. I didn't understand the metabolism. And I just ran with this narrative because it was a sexy, convenient thing to say. Hey, you're not eating enough. That's why you're not losing weight. And I was having these women who were 35% plus body fat eating more and they were getting fatter. And I'm like, no, 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 trust the process. And it's like, still, like fucking energy balance and thermodynamics are real. And I was fighting it. So I think coaches see shit on Instagram. They see other coaches doing certain shit or saying certain shit, and they don't have enough life experience to question these things. So they just go out and they think that because they saw something from an educated coach or from a more experienced coach that it's true. And then they start applying these principles to their clientele base, and then their clientele base doesn't get results and they wonder why. So by at least giving people access to a room full of professionals who have 14 different disciplines, because it's 14 speakers and they have 14 different areas of expertise and years of experience, you get to now disseminate what information applies to you and your clientele base. And you can either take it or leave it, but at least now you have that exposure. And you have that exposure from somebody who's credible like myself, because I don't say shit that I don't believe in. And I don't put myself out there unless I think it'll work. So it's up to you to decide whether you want to use it or not.
Jeff, imagine if there was a guy like that in your seminar when you were talking about copper and iodine dosing. I feel like his head would have exploded. He would have
Oh,
melted down. And it
I'm
was the
sure they
very
were.
first presentation.
I'm sure they were, but I would also have probably been like, well, why don't you try it? And I would have just started shutting them up in the back because I'm one of those, I'm a dick. I would just pull my phone out and started replying in the comments while I'm up there presenting and been like, this kid definitely is an idiot. Like, I want to listen to him. I like
Yeah.
he's living in his mom's basement, I can tell. But you run into that, and that's the hardest part about doing the seminar is not to pick on them, because I get that. I run across that. I know when we did that episode with Vince, Robo was a part of it. When Scuba and I did, we did about the fasting and the how he was fast people for multiple days to turn off the immune system. I was what was it called? Immune. I even forgot the name of it that he was calling it.
Overactive immune disorder.
Oh, OID,
Yeah.
OID, overactive immune disorder. And technically that is kind of in PubMed, it's just worded differently. But people were losing their minds over that. And all my comments were, hey, I'm just trying to bring about knowledge that might be practical. You should try it. If you don't like it, it's okay. You know what I mean? And people were tagging all sorts of people trying to say we were putting out misinformation. It's like, come on, like it's like going into crypto. It's like even on steroids, you see all some misinformation. Everything is misinformation. Well, not everything can be fucking misinformation. Do you know what I mean? If enough people say it works, there's probably something to it. And if a lot of people say it doesn't work, there might be something to it too. But why not try it and see? And that's the one thing that damns me about this industry. In most industries, I even see it creeping out in all industries. People like read one book, take one class, do one thing semi-successful, and suddenly they're an expert and they can armchair quarterback every damn industry, no matter what. I mean, 2020, everyone was a fucking virologist. 2024, all my friends were sociologists with geopolitical degrees. You know what I mean? So it just keeps going and going. And it's because we have the answers at the palm of our hands. And what really matters is more of these seminars. And Robo, I wanted to get your take because my mind just pings to this. You recently went to a Tony Robbins one, and let's
Yeah.
kind of talk about like a business one compared to what we do because that's the same stuff. So Robo and I went to Arte together, probably like one good speaker out of all of them, and it was Robert Greene, and that was just Robert Greene talking his shit. The others were either too hot, way too hot, or just topics like unrelatable. Like if I'm an entrepreneur in business, I assume the standard entry point is you are fired up to do your fucking business and want to win. That you're a great white shark, you want to swim in the blue waters, and if it's red, you're ready to cut it up with me and we're gonna make each other bleed. I assume that's the entry point to get into those. And when I'm hearing stuff about motivating and being the soft shelled egg and this shit, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I'm an asshole when I wake up ready to go to work at 5 a.m. every day. So, how was it with the Tony Robbins event? Were you kind of hearing that kind of stuff like Tony Robbins doesn't know what he's talking about? I read this book on NLP and I know more about it.
I said that in a couple areas actually. So it's 4 days, right? And Tony Robbins is aging. He's not in great health. People don't know that. Like he's not the guy all the time. So he gets up there, he cranks out 13 hours the first day. He's an incredible speaker, super
Oh,
engaging, teaches you tactics about controlling your emotions, refocusing, right? Day two comes in and it's his team. And his team's pretty rough. It's people who just found him early, kind of jumped on board, and he's brought along, but they're not really sharing anything great as far as knowledge. And a lot of what they're doing is sales pitches for the other seminars. I get that. Day three, Tony Robbins comes back on. Um, you know, again, real life, very in-depth tactics to help you break down barriers mentally. Then day four, it's another sales pitch. Most of the day. Where I had problems is when they brought on some guy, who was a Hollywood health guy, and he was telling us that we all need to do like celery juice every single morning to get our pH balanced in our gut. And you should be taking pH test strips and putting them on your tongue and until it's balanced. Like, what the fuck, man? Your stomach is supposed to be acidic so it can dissolve and break down foods. Like, what am I
Right.
missing here? So there is some garbage like that. Or, they're telling you about all these ways to be healthy, right? You're in the arena where the New Jersey Devils play. We had barely any access to water. We were there for 16-hour days, and the only food we had was fried, crappy food. And then Mark Hyman, was one of the speakers
Oh
and comes on
God.
and they play a video, and Mark Hyman's like, all right, you need to eat like this, you need to do this. And we're like, then why the hell have you been feeding us this garbage for 4 days?
Because
So
it's cheap, because it's cheaper and it saves them money and allows them to make their money back.
exactly. You know, and you got to realize at the end of the day, it's a business. He's a billionaire for a reason. His stuff is mostly real, but he is just like once in a lifetime you want to see him talk. And that's it. I'm not a big Tony Robbins follower as far as his seminars going out. Like his health one, they told me they have you do daily colonics in Fiji.
What?
Daily colonics.
So
you
you
didn't take
maybe
me to Fiji to shove shit up my ass to
And
get
he
clean,
wasn't
so
even
that's
there.
probably be.
yeah, I'll just go to
Tony didn't
Nashville and
show us
do
his
that.
team.
God
So
bless.
It's just
Uh,
So, I mean,
Well-
it's hard to put on a huge seminar, but it kind of leads into my next question I had, which is, are there seminars that you've been to that you thought, man, this is incredible. I want to bring this into my industry? Or is it you just have a vision for something and you're going after it?
Good question.
I don't know that I've ever been to something that's like blown my hair back that much.
Yeah.
Because you got to think too, like I've been in this industry for 15 years. Now I don't know everything, but I know a lot and I know a lot of people. So like it's going to be hard. I'm going to be hard pressed to be impressed by what I hear on stage. Now, there's certainly going to be topics that I'll be like, okay, that's something I didn't think about, or oh, that'll be a different way to think about things than I did. And Luca Hocevar hosted one this past October that was called the Vigor Ground Summit in Seattle, and I went to that, and I think the benefit of that one was I met a lot of people I didn't know. Like I met like Martin Rooney, who I'd never met in person, and I met Mark Fisher, who I'd never met in person. So for me, it was a lot more networking than anything, because at my level, that's really what I'm doing now is by going to these things, I get to also talk about my event to other people, and hopefully that raises awareness. But there was definitely some stuff on stage that I listened to more on the business marketing side of things that I just never considered, because I'm shit at that stuff anyway. But I would be like, I've been to ISSN conferences, very technical, sciencey ones, where they're still talking about fucking creatine on stage. And I'm like, guys, we've beaten this subject to death now for a decade. We don't need to see the protein overfeeding studies. We know protein's important. Like, tell me something from a practical standpoint on how I can get Mrs. Jones to lose 40 pounds. Like, do you have that information for me? Because unless you have a tactic that I don't have yet, why are you still putting these things on, regurgitating information that we've already known as coaches and trainers now for 20, 30 years plus? So I think that what happens oftentimes is that there's like a speaker circuit, and there's certain like Perform Better. Obviously I'm sure Jeff knows all about Perform Better. It's the same 20 fucking people every year talking about the same, like they're still teaching the kettlebell swing for an hour and a half. Like I don't like, if you're a trainer who took NASM, the first whatever CPT certificate, you probably know how to swing a kettlebell. You probably know how to teach a kettlebell swing to somebody. Do you need to see some dickhead with a kettlebell for an hour and a half swinging it? No. But yet they have these speakers that are just like indoctrinated into their philosophies, and they're part of their network. So they just keep pushing these same people every year. I mean, even some other conferences that I go to, I mean, I've been to, I don't want to name it because a friend of mine hosts the event, but one particular woman who he has on literally 3 years in a row now, almost word for word, the same presentation year after year. Now, the reason why he has her on is because she's an authority figure. She has a curriculum that she teaches to other trainers. She sells a book that's actually pretty good, and she gives out 20 or 30 of her certifications for free. She gives out copies of her book for free. So she's very good for the community. But like, as a speaker, wouldn't you want to just do something a little different? Wouldn't you want to come up there with like a different topic, as opposed to literally like to the point where she cries on cue at the same thing that she cried on cue for the year before? And then I've been to other events where, like you said, it was just like a motivational jerk off fest. Like, I don't need to get fired up to do my fucking job. My life depends on it. My roof depends on it. If I don't do my job, I don't get paid. I don't get to live in Southern California anymore. So, like, as a coach and as a person who's an entrepreneur, I don't need to go to a business coaching fucking thing to go see Ed Milet talk about how he has a $20 million island that he lives on. I don't give a shit about how much money
You
you
went to the
fucking have.
same one we went to, didn't
Oh,
you?
dude, I wanted to fucking rip. Like, when he started talking about God and his father dying and how it transformed, like, I'm like, guys, how does this help me sell coaching to anybody? How how
Yeah.
how is this going to help Mrs. Jones lose 45 pounds by listening to how fucking rich you are? Nobody gives a shit. And there's people in there that are crying, eating it up, and they're just pulling their credit card, ready to buy whatever mastermind he has to sell. And that's what this industry has turned into. It's like whoever's the loudest and whoever seems the coolest is now making the most money, but they're just useless human beings. Like I don't need to get fired up. If you have a tactic that's proven that's just going to work, like if you dump in $1,500 into an Instagram ad and use these specific tags, this specific language, and target this specific audience, I guarantee that you're going to get 5 new clients. Great. That's actionable. I can do something with that. But you showing me pictures of your cars and your island, and you talk to me about God and how your father died, get the fuck off stage. Like I've seen Alex Hormozy speak in person now multiple times. He hides behind all of the audio equipment before it's his time to go. He marches up, everybody explodes like he's Jesus. He says the same shit he says on Instagram for an hour, walks off, doesn't talk to anybody, and then isn't there to be found for another 5 minutes. And he, from what I understand, he charges anywhere between 25 and 30 grand to get on stage. Like you're a multi-millionaire, right? Or hundreds of millions you've already made, you said. What is that 25 or 30 grand going to do for you? That's a drop in the bucket. You should be up there for free, talking to every single person that's there, ready and willing to ask you questions. Yet you disappear at the first sign of not being on stage anymore. Just none of this shit makes sense to me. Like, I don't give a fuck if I become a millionaire. The richer I get, the more I'm going to give away. The more of my time I'll give away, the more of my knowledge I'll give away, the more of my money I'll give away, because I don't need it. I don't need to be important. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to stay with my Subaru Crosstrek. I'm going to live in my $3,500 apartment, and I'm going to keep my fucking head down because that's what human beings should do when they get successful.
I actually love all you just said. I want to talk about something real quick though. Finding speakers, when you talk about a speaker circuit, that is hard to do because what will usually happen is you'll start asking like, hey, you want to present? Then they'll go through topics like, oh, I need it to be edgier. And that's when that imposter syndrome shows up. I'm like, oh, you're the person who goes through 4,000 takes to get that 90-second correct reel. Like you can't, once I say 50 minutes, you got to be able to go. It's a Q&A panel at the end. You're going to have to be able to defend whatever you're saying to a degree because people are going to ask you. It gets to be where it weeds out fast. And the other thing is edgy topics. I don't know why seminars, because I told Robo the very first ROT I went to, and I'm not shitting on them. It is what it is in the space anymore. The very first ROT I went to was in 2019. And I remember Ed talking about he was getting audited or something. And he was like, winter's coming. Winter's coming. I remember sweating the whole ride home, being like, he's right. I don't have enough money. And it made me change a lot of things. So when COVID happened a year later, oddly, nobody saw that. I had 8, 9 months saved up where I could have kept my gym clothes, could be okay. So, but there was a lot of tactical stuff like how to attack the email thing, how to do this, how to like seed word. And then fast forward when Robo and I went to the last one, it was nothing like that. It's like all the edgy topics just disappeared. And when I did seminar, I wanted to be edgy as hell. Like Robo did a whole thing on profit first. And it was funny because I watched everybody in that room look at it sideways. And it's the one thing that if you put it in your business, you will actually make profit first. It's really impressive. But everybody in there is like, ah, fuck it. I'm just going to use my Venmo. And I'm like, well, that's why you're never legitimate. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing that I find really good about what you're doing with your seminar. You're trying to legitimate it and actually make it something, legitimize it and actually make it legitimize it and actually make it something where people, I sound like Trump, but he took over and now also I'm just creating words. And you're trying to make it something where people go out there and say, hey, this product's dependable. This product does this. I can guarantee this, 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 and I don't even take a dime on it. So I really commend you for that, man, for doing all that.
What was cool last year was like a lot of the speakers ended up selling a lot of their curriculums on stage, basically by like putting up a QR code or whatever afterwards. Jason Brown, who's a coach out of New Hampshire who does a lot of programming stuff, he sold like, I think he discounted his course to like by like 75%. And it was dirt cheap. Like you could buy like, he had like a $1,200 course on how to program. And I think he was selling it for like less than $200. And he didn't need the fucking money, right? And he knew how much money I had lost. And after he got off stage, he's like, dude, I just sold like $3,500 worth of courses. I'm like, dude, that's sick. An hour later, I get a Venmo with $3,500 and he sent me the money. And
Super awesome.
I was just floored, man. I was floored. And then my buddy John, who owns a gym out in Scarsdale, New York, uh, while I was setting up for the happy hour on the second night, I guess what he had done is he walked around to every table after dinner and was like, "Hey, Aram's really underwater on this. If you guys wouldn't mind just contributing something." And all of a sudden, just Venmo alerts just started hitting my phone, and I ended up making another like 2 or 3 grand just from people donating money because they knew how much I lost. So like, this is the power of community. Like, I have so many coaches that I will DM and be like, "Hey, you coming to the event?" And then they'll use like money as an excuse, or they'll use time as an excuse. And I'm like, if you plan on being a coach in this industry in the summertime of 2025, why would you not want to go and try to learn subject matter that will make you better at what you do? Well, I don't have the money. I didn't have the money in 2017 either. I took out 2 credit cards and I maxed both of them out. And I remember I paid like Alan Kress like $250 to speak to him for an hour. I had paid multiple people like that in the industry with my credit card that I was just completely underwater on. I was buying tickets to get on planes to go to travel to these things with money I didn't have. And lo and behold, 5 years later, all that money came back plus tenfold because I was just better at what I did. I had more confidence. I didn't have that imposter syndrome. I was able to create a business model that actually worked. And it was because I spent that money on the front end to make it back on the back end, which I continue to make now. But it's because I put myself in rooms with people that were fucking better at what I did than I was. Like I met Brad Jensen, the sober bodybuilder, who put me on his podcast that I flew out to on my own dime in Utah. And my name just exploded because I got onto a podcast of somebody who gave me a shot, and what I said resonated with a bunch of people. And to this day, he's like, it's one of the best episodes I ever did, and it's one of the most listened to episodes I ever had. And for all the coaches that are just hiding in their fucking house in front of their computer who never do these things, you'll never get that opportunity. Nobody's going to invite you on a podcast because nobody gives a shit who you are. You didn't meet them. You didn't shake hands with them. You didn't talk to them during the meals. You didn't have a cocktail with them. You never showed your true colors to anybody. You just sit there in front of your computer, hoping to sell coaching to people who already have 20 other options that are better than you are. And then you wonder why your business doesn't grow. And it's because I'm not using the right marketing tools or my reels aren't good enough. It's like, no, you're not saying anything different than anybody else is. When it comes down to brass tacks, you just don't know how to help people with complicated problems. Like, if all you are is a macro calculator and a fucking accountant, that's all you'll ever be. And by going into these types of events that have a little bit more specified education that's actually practical that you can apply the second you finish that conversation. Like, I had people telling me like they were implementing some of the tactics that they were being taught on stage, from a dieting standpoint, or they were implementing cardio programs. They were writing literally an hour after they saw Alyssa Olenek talk about zone 2 cardio, and they were starting to implement it with their clients. Within 3 or 4 months, they were getting better results. And oh my God, lo and behold, their business grew. And that's the type of stuff that like people are so short-sighted about where they spend their money. And they'll go and they'll pay for fucking photo shoots of themselves, and they'll buy Nikes and Lululemon clothing, and they'll try to be like these pretty trainers. And I'm like, but you don't know how to actually coach people. You don't know how to solve client problems. And you continue to not know how to do that stuff because you don't expose yourself to this stuff. And it's a very hard thing to sell because there's people that are just always going to be hungry for information, and they'll just sprint towards these opportunities. And then there's this massive crowd of people that are coming into this industry that are in their low 20s, mid 20s, that are just so ready to earn a living and make that 5-figure month that these business coaches keep promising them that they're going to make. And it's like, it took me 10 years to see a 5-figure month in this industry. I was rolling fucking towels at Equinox, handing them to fucking rich women in New Greenwich, Connecticut for $8 an hour with a blue trainer shirt on because I couldn't earn my black trainer shirt yet. And that's how I started. And like, all I did was just absorb knowledge from people that were more experienced and better than I was. And, I would like, Jeff's a smart guy, but I want to know who fucking Jeff learned from. Who taught Jeff? Like, cool that Jeff is smart, awesome, but who taught Jeff? I want to go to that guy. Like, and then who did that guy learn from? Because I want to go to that guy. And that's what people don't think about. Like, that's why, like, I use ChatGPT a lot now because I started to actually conform to technology a little bit. And what I'll do
Good
is
for
like,
you.
so like I've been reading this book, great book, Herman Ponzer, Burned, all about the metabolism. So what I'll do is I'll prompt ChatGPT and I'll start asking it questions based on this book. And I just start teaching myself certain things. And then I start to go down these rabbit holes. And I just think coaches are so concerned about like selling, selling, selling. And they go to every business seminar and they hire every business coach. but it's like you don't actually know the fundamentals of bioenergetics. You don't know the fundamentals of human physiology or human psychology. You're like, well, I don't get why Mrs. Jones won't stick to my program. It's because she doesn't fucking want to do what you say to do. She doesn't have the bandwidth to do the 90 things you're asking her to do, or you don't set standards well enough and you don't communicate well enough. These are skill sets you have to acquire and learn from people that are just better at doing what you do. And I think it's so short-sighted that people are so protective of their finances, but they're going to go spend money on dumb shit that does nothing for them outside of just make them look cool for 5 minutes. But then because a skill set you'll never lose. Once you have it, it's yours forever. You own it. You build that intelligence and you can ride with that for the rest of your life and just build on it. The photo shoot you did at Starbucks that made you look like a busy coach is not going to stick around for more than a couple of reels, right? The nice outfit that you bought to have a photo shoot in because you were shredded isn't going to last because you look the same as anybody else does. Like our bodies as coaches, yeah, it's a decent selling point. Jeff's jacked, I'm jacked, but there's other jacked guys out in the industry too. Nobody gives a fuck what we look like. They want, are we helpful? Do we know what we're talking about? Do we have a program and a system that works? And can we do it over and over and over again while supporting the individuals that we're working with? And that's what coaches are missing.
Robo, you
Damn.
want to ask a question before we wrap it up? It's one of those things where I bet there's a lot that cross, even though we've talked heavy on the coaching health industry side of things, I bet there's a lot with what you do with business sales, those kind of seminars that you can kind of hear, because I think our industry was one of the first ones that kind of popped off this notion of these seminars and then leaching the business stuff, and then everyone can be a business coach. It definitely kind of, I think, rooted some on our end, but what is your take after hearing this in comparison to like people that you talk to and the seminars they want to attend, might have attended, or what they're trying to acquire out there? Probably the most confusing question I just asked you.
Ask again.
All right. So
Chat GPT it.
Yeah,
Chat GPT. All right. So small business. You're out there, you're listening to this because anyone who's coach, whatever, small business owner, we have a lot of people listen to the show.
Yeah.
Based upon what you're hearing, what are the similar things you've seen on your end of the business seminars you've been to? And then people who kind of come, do they kind of, for you for help, have they gone to seminars like this and heard stupid information shared? Or what do they kind of have to say?
Yeah, I mean, 90% of the seminars out there are motivational. Motivation is fleeting, it doesn't last. When you get into the tactical ones, there are likely some good ones out there. I don't know them. I haven't heard of them. I haven't been to them. I don't know anyone who has.
That's an honest answer. That's why I
Yeah.
wanted to ask, because I knew you'd shoot it straight.
Yeah, I just don't know. Like Tony Robbins, would I ever do it again? No. Was it cool to see him talk? Yeah, but I spent a lot of money. Probably not worth it again. However,
How much was it, Robo? I'm curious.
the ticket itself was about 800 for 4 days, and then you have your hotel and
That's not
food and all
bad.
that stuff is entirely on you, no meals included.
Okay. So it was $800 just to be in the room.
Correct. And that was the lowest tier. Like I was up in the nosebleeds where you didn't have enough leg room and your knees start to hurt. Like if you wanted to be on floor level, minimum 5 grand probably. People at
What?
the front, 15 to 80 grand, depending on,
What?
how they're set. Yeah, it's
You got a
insane.
long way to go, bro. Long way to go, Aram.
If you want direct access to Tony, I think his 1 year program starts at somewhere around 250.
Yeah, Bedros is, if you want
That's what
access to
Bedros charged.
Bedros is, he's
Yeah.
100,000 to enter
I just
his
saw him.
network.
I just saw him speak in November.
And
Yeah.
same, there's no tactical from those guys because what they're doing is on that stuff, you're just buying into their network. You're just buying into the people who are going to help make it go like it did them. And I respect it. You got to keep that shit close to your chest.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point where if I want to learn something, I'm not going to a seminar. I kind of do what Aram does, where I try and find whoever does that. And if they sell a course, yeah, maybe I'll give them some money and just buy the course or a book or something like that. But I try and seek those individuals out rather than some big seminar and hope it's useful. I think books are a better use of my money.
I mean, the problem is like, and Jeff, you probably can resonate with this. There's a lot of people that sound like they're going to be helpful overtly when they're on the internet. And they present themselves in an amazing way. They put good content out, whatever. But then either when you hire them to work with them, they just don't fulfill on their promises. And I think
Mm.
that's probably one of the biggest problems when it comes to a service-based industry is you just don't know what you're going to get until you've swiped your credit card and start working with that individual. Like I can
Yeah.
seem like I know what I'm talking about as a coach, but until you actually get into my ecosystem and see my communication style and see the deliverables or don't see the deliverables, you don't really know how that experience is going to go. So I don't fault coaches for spending money on shit that they don't understand. But the thing is, it's almost like I know what my intentions are. Like I know I'm not trying to grift anybody. I know I'm not trying to take anybody's money and not give them something in return. But it's hard to be able to convey that and sell that unless people already have know you and trust you. So, like 250 people with 265 came last year. Are all 265 coming back? No, because maybe the date doesn't work. Maybe the ticket price is more expensive this year than they can afford or they want to spend on it. So it's like I have to now go out and find a whole new crop of people to fill that 124 seats that I have left. I could probably do it. I'm not super, super nervous about it. I think I could probably sell another 75, 80 tickets by the time April comes rolling around. But what I don't understand and what I really want to get down to the bottom of is what is the trajectory of continued education in our industry? Like, what is it going to look like? Is it just going to be more coaches who have experience that are going to create curriculums and sell them to other coaches? Because that's always where it goes. Because every coach who's good makes a lot of money coaching. Then they realize they hate working with individuals because they're a fucking pain in the ass and they don't comply. And then they realize at some point, hey, I have the knowledge base to go teach my shit to other coaches who are much more willing to buy my product than the end user is, because the end user doesn't give a shit about fat loss. But I can sell my fat loss protocols to other coaches, and I'll be much more successful doing that. It's a much easier sale. And that's why we have this massive uptick of curriculums and business coaching courses and everything else, because that's where it goes. It's just a lower barrier to entry and it's easier to make money that way.
I offer no courses.
You
I
should. I would
don't
actually, I
teach or
would fucking
anything.
buy your courses.
I've heard that a lot, but you know what, man? I stick to what I know best, and that's helping people. And it's not helping coaches. And I know it sounds like a contradictory to hear that, but I get more satisfaction of watching Robo wall ball for 30 minutes and almost puke than I do sitting on someone's a Zoom with someone to a degree and being like, hey, look, these are the things you should consider. And what it is no one wants to listen to business advice if they don't feel like it makes them popular enough or sexy enough or things like that. So I'm just like, fuck it. I'll continue to make my $250,000 a year plus and sit on my ass, and you guys can know more than me making $2,000 a month, and I'll shut the fuck up. And that's kind of where I got with it. This was a outside my one shitty question I had to re-ask to Robo, an amazing episode because I think it was very truthful. It actually does ask a really good question of where does continuing education go for all industries? Because it sounds like in the business and every other one that I've ever seen for anything. Like there's one here in Nashville for business. It's got the guy from Barstool Sports, Kristen Cavalieri, whoever she was from the Hills. And someone else like, what do you all know about business? I would never sit in this on. Even Dave Ramsey's on the thing. I'm like, Dave, you're great about your 10 little baby steps to make sure people get out of debt, but your business was built on other things outside of what I think you want to have conversations about in a room. So it just lets you know it's almost like everybody's doing it to sell a course, sell a book, sell something, and not actually give back and empower people. Because heaven forbid the day they ever do a seminar for entrepreneurs of any industry that actually helps entrepreneurs understand Google Analytics, how to create a landing page, how to properly build an email list, and what you're looking for to do that.
Yep.
Different offenses to go on, in terms of marketing outreach. Until that actually comes together collectively, it's going to be a hard pass for me for a lot of industries. I'm more inclined to come out and do an event like yours and partake in that because now that I've heard it, I understand it's from the heart. And that's hard to hear from a lot of businesses and people out there anymore. So tell everybody where it's at, tell everybody how they can sign up, tell everybody how they can support you and make it where you don't cry yourself to sleep that night.
Well, it'll be suicide next. That'll be the easier route because crying
Mhm.
myself to sleep is getting old. And I don't look very good in the morning after I've cried all night long. So I'm going to try stopping that.
I'll come give you a hug. I'll fly out to San
No one
Diego.
does.
I'll
Yeah.
do blow with you for one time. I haven't done it in a while.
You
And I'll
would
just
you,
hug you and
with
cry
your
the whole
fucking,
time.
I don't know that your heart can handle the cocaine.
Oh, buddy, I I have some stories for you that we could
All
talk
right,
about.
good. So show up to Vegas because
Yeah.
Vegas is
Uh,
Tuesday night after the event's over. I took 50 people to Spearmint Rhino last year on 2 stripper pole buses, and it was fucking awesome. I had like 20 people that had never been to a strip club ever.
really?
And it was so worth just seeing their react. Because I mean, when you go to Spearmint Rhino, it's like going to the mecca of strip clubs in the world, and you're at the one in
Robo
Vegas,
shaking his head like I've been there. I know. I've seen.
which is like,
Yeah.
have you been or no?
I've never been to one in Vegas.
So I
That's
mean,
a
it's good.
great way to end up with no money.
I
Yeah.
mean, listen, half the people in
And
there
I am
were
kind of
not.
cheap. I don't know if you know this about me. Yeah.
Well, you're frugal. You're not
Are you
cheap. That's
cheaper? Are you
different.
cheaper than Skip Bayless? Oh, bad
I
joke.
don't
Bad
make
joke.
his
Bad
kind of
joke.
money. Yeah.
But no, well, I watch people let their hair down because a lot of times you go to these events and people are just so stuffy and they're trying to like eat perfectly and they're trying not to drink. And I'm like, no, I want you to like go out, have a fucking couple cocktails at the happy hour. Like it's gonna be okay. If your sleep suffers one night, your hypertrophy won't go away. And like if you go out and you go to the strip club until 2 in the morning on Tuesday night and you've never been, like nothing bad's gonna happen. At least you can go see another side of life. So it was cool to see people kind of let their hair down and be themselves for a couple hours, and it was fun to see that. So for anybody who's interested, it's in April. It's April 13th to the 15th of this year. It's at Caesar's Palace. Tickets are being sold at realcoachessummit2023.com. Yes, I know it's 2023.com and not that's just the domain name I bought and never changed it. So that is what it is. Uh, it's all inclusive, so all meals are covered for 2.5 days. All the events are covered. It's cash bar, but that's because half the people don't drink, so I don't I don't bother supplying booze anymore because it costs me too much money. Um, and this is gonna be my desperate plea. If I don't get 124 people to buy tickets for this event to fill it up, I will probably no longer run it. And if I stop running it, I'm already seeing the other events decrease in attendance, and I predict that in the next 2 to 3 years, it's only going to be the dick bag events that are going to be left because those are going to be the ones that are still making money because they're selling so much shit on the back end, and that's the only options you'll have left. So all of these educators that you'll have access to will be gone. All of the curriculums you'll be able to have access to will be gone. So if this event doesn't survive, I don't see unless I could start making a ton of money elsewhere and just subsidize the event my own self. I just see a very rapid decline of quality education in this industry.
I actually couldn't disagree, not disagree, agree with you any more than what you just said, because it's hard to be motivated to put on quality seminars when you know that there's going to be it's literally a 6 month nightmare. And that's just a small number of that I'm putting on. You're even bigger than me. So yours is, I know, easily 1 year. You're basically like Nick Saban. The moment you win the national championship, you celebrate that one night at the strip club, and then the very next day, you got to go back thinking about next year and what you're going to do. Who's that ticket going to be? What hit? What didn't work? You're breaking it down, and you're out in the field in the turf trying to recruit again. So, if you guys are listening to this, feel free to hit him up. What's your Instagram? Where can everybody like find you on that? That's an easy way to like begin a conversation, chat with you, because I think that's where you shine well, my friend. Your beautiful smile, your sexy, sultry Armenian voice. It's nice.
I appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you because
Thank you. I
you're
appreciate
you're
it.
a man crush, even though I feel like I'd beat you up a little bit in bed, but that's okay. At four,
I nibble. I nibble. But
okay,
anyway.
I'll take it. At 4 weeks to the beach, so it's the number 4. If you start typing in at 4 weeks, you'll see my mug pop up. But I answer all my DMs. I don't have assistants. I don't have assistant coaches. I'm the one doing everything. I'm the one behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. So if you have questions for me, if you want to tell me to go fuck myself and you don't agree with me, send me that DM too. I'm happy to have that discourse and learn what I did wrong. So I'm always open to any type of feedback, good or bad.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. It was very insightful and eye-opening. I could definitely say I'm exhausted after this conversation with you. And will be for the next few months. But Aram, you take care, man, and thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity, fellas. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ladies, gentlemen, be sure to share, like, get us out there. There's a lot of people out there who might be thinking about running a seminar, and they're going to heed Aram's fateful warning. Don't do it.